Hi everyone, my name is Amy DeLuca, and my assignment for the final project was to read chapters 5 and 6 of the Leaders Eat Last book and tell you about them so that you don't have to read chapters 5 and 6. The first thing that I want to say is chapters 5 and 6 are part of part 2 in the overall book itself. Part 2 talks about powerful forces, and so the chapters that I had are going to talk about powerful forces. We're going to talk about chemicals in our bodies, which are very critical for leaders to know and understand, and just as basic human information. One of the things that I noticed after I read both chapters was that I wish that information maybe was presented earlier in this course or even earlier in leadership, because I think a lot of what we're talking about is the fundamentals that make up human beings. And when you have an understanding of how that works, I think that you can consider all of that when you are working with teams of people and individuals as a leader, or really even just as a colleague or peer. Chapter 5 starts with the title is When Enough is Enough. And the author uses chapter 5 basically to discuss us currently in the modern world back to Paleolithic times when humans were cavemen. And physiologically, there's not a lot of difference. We still have the same desire to survive. We still have the same, we are still highly social beings. We still want to belong. We want to provide. We do things that feel good and make us feel good. So I think what's interesting as we go back and look in the Paleolithic period, cavemen worked together. They lived in small communities of maybe 150 people or less. The men worked together and they hunted and gathered their food together. In their small community, the families raised children together, and they took care of their sick and their elderly together. So there was a very deeply connected need to belong and to pull your weight within your group. So that's a really interesting concept when you think about individuals now. We are highly social. We do want to prosper, and we are built to survive. But we can't do that without other people. Even if you want to say that you're very independent, you have to depend on somebody at some point. The author also compares the Paleolithic tribe concept to the reason that college dormitories are the way they are. And it is kind of a really good analogy. The dorm is the hub for all social things in college, particularly for freshmen. Everybody there has the same commonality, the same common goal, which is to receive their education. They may be going for different majors or different areas, but they are all there to receive their education, and they're all away from their homes for the first time, most likely. The dormitory is traditionally a place where the rooms are for sleeping and hanging out, but doors are often open and the hallway is very social. And this is where people bond with other people and often meet friends for life there. It's not necessarily the classrooms that stimulate that, it's that tribe living. So we are then by design, as I said before, social beings who want to survive. And I think it's important for leaders to understand our need to be social, our need to bond with others, and to feel part of a group. In my current employment, I have a team of 9 individuals, and we are a team, and we try to spend a lot of time building that team. And every time we have a meeting, now it's through Zoom, when we meet, we always start our meetings with talking about things that are going on in our lives. Everybody gets an opportunity to share, whether it's a personal funny story or some accomplishment that has happened within their family. And it's been a real bonding experience, and we are very close to one another. And I think it's really important to remember that when you're a leader, that people have these physiological needs. And what we're going to get into in chapter 6 shortly is the idea that we are all chemically dependent. Okay, so when you hear that, you think something bad. But the 4 primary chemicals that we rely on within our bodies that contribute to all of our positive feelings, there are 4 of them. There is endorphins, there is dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. So those are our 4 chemicals that we're going to be discussing a little bit further in the chapter 6 component. So they all serve one purpose, and it's for our survival. And as I started out talking about chapter 5, we are humans that need to survive. We're built to survive. So two of those chemicals are the ones that will help us find food and get things done. And the other 2 are to help us socialize and cooperate. So if you look at chapter 6, you'll see in the book that it's called EDSO. And that simply stands for the 4 chemicals we're going to discuss: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. We're first going to talk about endorphins. I think people are pretty familiar with endorphins. It's the feel-good, the runner's high. That's what most people associate endorphins with, maybe with exercise. What it does is it masks pain and allows us the capacity to build endurance. So if you look at the cavemen, what you get are, if they didn't have endorphins, they wouldn't be able to hunt and spend enormous amounts of time doing that, even when they didn't get any food for their family. It enabled them to walk and travel great distances to get their food for their family. Well, we get endorphin hits from exercise, which I think most of us are familiar with. We can get them from doing manual or physical labor. But one of the best ways to get endorphins, and this is great, is through laughter. And so when I read that, it kind of made me laugh. And then I just started remembering times for me with friends and family that when you laugh so hard, I mean, it is just such a good feeling. And when you feel that good feeling, that's endorphins. So as a leader, I think it's something to keep in mind. Maybe when you have to give maybe not so good news, that you could start with a joke. Let people get hit with a little bit of endorphins before you hit them with something not so fun. Let's see here. So leaders need to keep in mind, again, all of these chemicals as we work through these in chapter 6, because it's how people function and how people work. And you will see these things within your teams that you already have, just human dynamics. So dopamine is a feel-good chemical. Dopamine is the feeling you get when you feel satisfied, when you feel like you've made progress. It makes us goal-oriented. And what I keep thinking of when I read the chapter was, obviously, the dopamine is what keeps me able to work full-time and take all these classes, and I just want to achieve my goal, and it keeps me going. And so I think that that's really important. It makes us goal-oriented people with a bias for progress. I want to make progress. I want to succeed. So where endorphins give us the edge, dopamine gives us the rewards. We also have the selfless chemicals, and they are serotonin and oxytocin. They make up what I call I don't call it that, the author did, the circle of safety. Everyone wants to be in the circle of safety. It's what helps us create bonds, form bonds Um, when we feel safe, our stress decreases, our fulfillment peaks, and we want to serve others. So when you're in a good, productive team and your needs are being met, you want to do good things. It's like having someone, like a boss that you want to please. You want to earn that. You want to feel good about being a part of the team. I think leaders set the tone for this circle of safety. It's extremely important for leaders to understand. Serotonin brings us pride. It reinforces bonds and it makes us feel good. Oxytocin is what we call chemical love. It's when you get the warm fuzzies, that's oxytocin. It's what makes us social. It makes us want to be with other people, feel close to them. When you hug someone you love, you get that warm feeling. That's oxytocin. That's a dose of oxytocin. So while dopamine is short-lived, we have oxytocin that balances us, and it is long-lasting. And our brains are wired to release oxytocin in the presence of our tribe, our people, our teams, our families, our friends. It's what breeds generosity. And, the whole pay it forward concept is based on oxytocin. It's based on getting a hit of oxytocin. Oxytocin also boosts your immune system. It makes us better problem solvers. And when you look at the four chemicals working together, I think it's really important for the leaders to understand that if you understand basic human physiology, then you have insight into what motivates people and what helps them want to be a part of a team and to produce excellent results. I think when you think about the four chemicals and how they can work together, I think that most leaders will then be able to put in perspective the other types of leadership approaches that we've been taught through this program at Point Park. So that is chapter 5 and 6 in a nutshell. I hope that you found this helpful, and I wish you lots of luck for the rest of the summer. Thank you.